People quit jobs all the time. But there's one thing I do know. Don't quit bad. Don't know why I started thinking of this story. It happened in 1995. And the weirdest thing is that 30 years later, suddenly the lesson came. Hadn't thought about it in a long time. But it was the first time I'd ever watched a guy just quit. Just on the verge of greatness and just quit. So I was in the military at the time, and we'd already gone through basic, and we had to do our final PT test in AIT. And mind you, I went through 2.5 cycles of basic. I threw out my back and I got hurt. And I've never been athletic, I'll tell you that. The fastest I ever ran the 2 miles was 13:99. I only broke into the 13s once, and well, I was proud of that. I could outwalk anybody. I probably still can. I was a machine when it came to walking. And I could run, but I was more of a long distance guy than a fast guy. Once I was like that meme of that dachshund with one speed. I just had one speed. But at that one speed, I could go forever. But I've never been an athletic guy, but you go to basic and you build your strength, you build your core. What they don't tell you is when you go to AIT, they raise the standards. Not by much, but they do raise it. And so for that, several months you're there, you work out a lot, and you have many PT tests, but the final one is the most important one. So if you don't pass this one, you just go home. You're done. I mean, at the end of AIT, you're kind of at the point to where they've invested a lot of money in you, and if this is the time to go. So I sat there and passed mine. No great shakes, but passed it. We had this one kid, and I know he'd passed it before. And we're getting down to the last. He's passed the run. He's passed the sit-ups. We're doing the push-ups now. Dude has 1, maybe 2 push-ups left. And mind you, I'd seen this kid pass the other PT test. I knew he could do it. And with like 1 push-up left, he just quit. He just stopped. Wouldn't do another one. And I didn't see his arms shaking. His back was a little arched. I mean, yeah, but he just quit out of the blue. He was just done. Well, this is typical. Typical that my trailer would be jacked up at least a foot higher than it needs to be in front of a pothole with mud. Well, that ought to be a good time. Well, that took 7 to 10 business days. Ugh. But we're hooked up. So we'll put a pause on that story real quick. But I've been noticing there's a trend in a lot of people, like with quiet quitting, and they just quit bad. They throw fits, they break things, they steal stuff on the way out, People just quit bad. And that quiet quitting was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I mean, you're mad at your boss because you feel like he's taking advantage of you. He may or may not be, but at the same time, you did sign a contract to go work for him. And you're putting out the bare minimum, barest, if even that. You're like, what's he gonna do, fire me? Yeah.
That's exactly what he's going to do. And here's the thing. On these forms, when you go from employer to employer, they can't ask a whole lot of questions anymore. Would you hire him? Yes. Or would you rehire him? No. Even if they put no, here's the thing. Word gets around. And if you're in a specialized industry, word gets way around on what you got going on. When you spend years in the same industry, and you just bounce all over from these different jobs and whatnot, and it happens. Stores close, places change, you move on, you advance, you do lateral moves, you quit because of bad management, whatever. But what you're going to find is that you're going to work with the same people in different environments at several different places. It's happened all over. I had, several trucking jobs in my life, and I've worked with the same people at multiple companies. From office staff to safety guys to drivers. So this is something you have to think about, that the guy you quit on, or your reputation, will follow you to the next job. And you may, the problem is you may not think it was a big deal, but somebody's going to see it and be like, oh yeah, I used to work with him. Yeah, well, what'd you think of him? No, I'd never hire him. People talk. People talk. And they talk a lot. Your reputation will precede you everywhere you go. You know, I know people that have been through a lot of jobs and have done very well. I knew people that have been through a lot of jobs and are still just as broke as they were on day one, because they're impossible to deal with. How you quit is going to dictate a lot in your life. And it's going to set a precedence. You know, just like I was talking about on that logbook video. You know, you do it once, it starts getting easier, and you start taking it. You know, I'll tell you what, you got to figure something out. Ooh, it's bumpy. People in a rare mood today. I almost T-boned a guy. Stop block sign here, you dickhead. And he's got the gall to get nasty with me. And then the guy sat there and argued with the gal here at the Casey's over 60 cents because he put it in a wrong cup. But we got scaled out. I can work with that. Now here's the thing, quitting can't be emotionally based. It just can't. When things are emotionally based, with no logic or reason behind them, you make stupid decisions. Look, at our age, we can't be making stupid decisions because they have life-altering consequences. You know, at 19, sometimes they have life-altering consequences. You just don't know. I mean, a lot of times, the way you quit will set you on a course that you never meant to go. Now here's the thing, I'm not going to say that I've never quit a job, because I've quit several of them. You have to quit a job to move on to your next job. Have I quit badly? Well, when I was at McDonald's, I just quit. And that was 1992. I was 17. Is that 7? No, I was 16. That was an awful job. They were doing a lot of things that I know now were illegal. They eventually got caught for them, but the group that owns the McDonald's franchises around Wichita and Derby, they own a bunch of them. They are awful people. I don't know how they're still in business, but that's another story. They're just jacked around, jerking me around. And truthfully, at that point, I've been working under the table since I was 12. You know, so I always worked. So I just quit, went down the street to Hardee's and spent 3.5 years there. It was great. It actually was a great job. But, you know, graduate high school and move on to bigger and better things. And when I quit Great Transportation, the reason I quit like I did there was, well, if you put in your 2 weeks notice, they were going to screw you. And I'd seen so many guys try to quit right there, get out to Ohio or someplace 300, 400, 600 miles from their house and just dump them off, have the sheriff seize the truck. They were, and here's the thing, I don't think it was Leroy doing it. Leroy was getting a lot of bad information. There was some people that were working for him that he trusted that did not have his best interest in mind. When I quit Decker, put in my 2 weeks, made it a week. It was, they just wanted me gone. And I was, actually, I made it a week and a half. I was on my last load to bring the truck back, or the trailer back and all that, and got severely jerked around. And I finally just said, remember thinking, I'm an owner-operator. We're done. And I was done. So I ended up just going there. You know, and I've been fired from a couple of jobs. There's one job I deserve to get fired from. Yeah, that was driving concrete truck. That was not my forte. It was an awful job. Truthfully, looking back, it was an awfully run business, but it wasn't my business to run, so hey. So, let's get back to the guy in the Army. So he had one more push-up, and him, by failing to do that push-up, altered the course of his entire life. One thing. He was one push-up away from a completely new life. And great things, and going off and seeing the world and having an adventure. He gave it up. And he altered his life in a way that he can never fix. One push-up. And I got thinking about this the other day. You know, we graduated AIT, and went on to do bigger, better, and wonderful things. But with that one refusal, he forfeited all of that. He forfeited a life that could have been wonderful. Gave it up for what? I don't know. And here's the thing. He probably went home and didn't think anything about it for 2, 3, 4 years maybe. But you know, there was a point when he's sitting there stuck at a dead-end job thinking about that one push-up and how, do I think there was some regret there? Probably. I would imagine there probably is, because you know, he's 50, he's 50 now. Between 48 and 52, somewhere in there. Looking back, wondering what if one push-up changed your entire life. Your refusal to go home to what? When I came home out of the Army, I came home to a still life painting. And that was when I realized that life hadn't changed, I had. And I left all those people behind and went and started a new life somewhere else. It's been a good life. But with that one push-up, he gave up, well, basically, a chance to see the world on the government's dime. A fraternity of lunatics that he will always have a bond with. Some of the best lifelong friends you'll ever have. For what? I don't know for what. I've never once regretted you know, my time there. And one inconsequential decision at 19, 20 years old, because he just didn't want to do it anymore, just quit, altered his entire life in a way that you can never recover from. He will never recover from that. There's no going back after that. I don't know what made me think of that, but I got really thinking about this, and he was 1 second away, a decision made 1 second away from a wonderful life, just to give up. One push-up. This is why I say don't quit badly. There are times to quit, there's times to run, there's times to cut. But he literally, and I keep saying this because it still boggles my mind, we graduated and went on to our permanent duty stations like 4 days later. He was done. One push-up. Don't quit badly, and don't give up, because when you, especially at that age, when you start a pattern of that, it's never going to stop. You're the one that has to break the cycle. And something seemingly inconsequential as one push-up will change your life for the good or for the bad. He will never know what he gave up because he never finished. It was one push-up away from finishing, and he never finished. And he will, to this day, will never know what he gave up. I don't know what he gained. I don't know where he's at now. He, when he quit, he suddenly went over there. He was no longer part of us. It's weird to say it that way, but he suddenly was no longer part of us, and we graduated and we went off to wonderful things. Like I said, some of the best friends you'll ever have, some of the best friends I've ever had. I still talk to a lot of them. I still see some of them too. And yeah, like I said, it still boggles my mind, but don't quit badly. Just when you're that close, why not see what's over the next hill? It ain't forever. So, yeah. Just remember, guys, that when you're down to something as simple as this, it can have life-altering consequences that once these decisions have been made, there's no going back. So keep your head up, keep your wits about you, keep it straight, and just remember, one little thing, like one push-up, can make all the difference in the world. See you next video.
Up with the dawn, I look out to a brand new horizon, where the colors are blending.